Hi guys, today's video is part 1 of painting my Scarab Occult Terminators. So you would have seen the build video, and now we're going to move on to painting those models. So I've taken the first 5 that you've seen from the last video that I've already taken to the gold and Reichland fleshshade wash stage. There's more details on that on my painting rubric marines if you want to go back and check that out. So we're just taking the gold up to the final highlight, and then we'll be doing the blue and then some Nuln Oil wash, and that will be this video. It's very similar to the rubric marine video. Obviously these models are slightly different, so there's some different areas to worry about, and there's a little bit more detail on these, being Terminators, being the elite troops. So just getting into the video then. So the first part is doing a gold dry brush. So this is my Vallejo gold again, and just trying to pick out all the edges, all the highlighted parts, the corners of the armour. It's still a fairly light process, but you're just trying to pick out, you know, on this bit the headdress, the sides of the headdress there, some of the detail on the top of the Terminator carapace armour, and then working around those shoulder pads as they're quite ornate. And at this stage, I'm not overly worried about where the blue paint's going to go. Dry brushing does tend to be quite a messy affair and is quite difficult to control. Just moving on to the torso, there's lots of raised area here. There's some quite ornate detail on the torso and on the knees and the lower parts of the legs. And just on the forearms as well is quite detailed. There's 2 stages of gold in this work. As before with the rubric marines, it's a 2-stage gold process here. So the first one was the glorious gold, which is game colour 56 from Vallejo. And then this part here that we're now working on is the polished gold, which is game colour 55 if you're interested. And this is a slightly lighter dry brush than the first one, just picking out the real edges again. It's a little bit of a softer approach than the first dry brush, so it takes a little less time to complete. But again, it's exactly the same process as the rubric marines in a previous video. The final stage of highlight for the gold that I do here is just with chainmail silver. This is even lighter than the previous polished gold stage. So just getting some into the mixing dish there. Just applying it, you know, as a standard dry brush. So just making sure that the gold was completely clean off my brush first. I did use some paint cleaner or some brush cleaner on that. And then this really is picking out the very corner tips of the gold armour. So you can see me there working on the top left, top right, and the little bit further down on the headdress. Then just picking out the top of the chest piece there. Light rub over the 2 shoulder greaves, and just picking out, you know, as I said, the very edges of the gold work, just to make those the final highlight stages. Just not very heavy-handed at all. It's a very subtle effect. So once everything's dry then, which didn't take very long, dry brushing is not very a wet technique, so it does dry pretty quick. It's on with the Thousand Suns blue, and this is where it takes the model from looking just like a gold blob and starts turning him into a Thousand Sun Marine. So giving the pot a good shape and watering this down it's probably about 50-50 water to paint, I guess. Just using an old brush there because the paint does get up into the ferrule of the brush and you don't really want that on a good brush. And using that to thin the paint out, as you can see there. So I'm now going to apply that blue into all the armour panels. This is where you really need a good detail brush. I'm using a 000 brush here. And just applying that paint into the armour panels, just really being careful about the gold work you've already finished. And as with the Rubric Marines before, you haven't got to take the blue and push it right to the very edge. If you've still got a very small gap, that's all quite good, because the black wash that comes after this will hide a multitude of errors and sins. But as it is a watered down paint and you are going over a darker colour, that gold does come through quite easily over the thinned blue. You do need to give this 2 or 3 goes over with the paintbrush. Just let each section dry first. But you know, you can work on the first Marine and do his legs, move on to the next guy, do his legs. By the time you've done all 5 and come back, the first guy is completely dry, and then you can go through the process again. You can see I'm trying to be really careful, moving the model carefully around the hand, just to get the right angle so that I can get the brush strokes in the right direction. Just making sure that those leg details that are already in gold are avoided. It is quite ornate, some of this work, it is quite tricky. And then once we're done, we should end up something like this. So that's all 5 of the guys done with the blue work, and you can see on here the highlighted gold. And then we move on to the final stage of this video, which is a non-oil wash over the blue parts. And again, I keep repeating myself going back to the Rubric Marine guide, but it is the same kind of video, just applied to a different model. You're just making sure here that you get a good definition between the blue and the gold. It forms a good delimitation between those 2 colours and gives you a nice depth to the blue. Just applying a big pile of it in there into the palette. And I've gone with I think this is a 2 or a 1 brush, I can't quite remember now. But something with a good point so that you can manipulate the wash around the parts. And again, trying to really avoid making sure that it doesn't pull, so you don't want to apply too much in one go. And if you do, just make sure you push it around onto some other parts of the blue, and make sure that you get into those all the nooks and crannies, all the little recesses. And as I said, making sure that you get a good black line of shade between the blue and the gold. So really focusing, pushing it into those corners, as you can see there in the video. But part 2 of the video, we'll start brightening the model up and we'll go through the blue highlights. And then probably in a 3rd video, depending on how long it takes me to run the video, I don't want them to be too long for you. We'll move on to the detail work and we'll get the weapons done and the head done and the headdress done and the yellow bits and all that good stuff. And once all 5 guys are done, you should end up with something like this. So you can see in the leg greaves specifically and on the headdress, those detailed lines have come out now with the wash. Ignore the patchy parts on the blue, that doesn't really matter, and bear in mind you're looking at these images at quite a large scale now, and we'll be clearing those up in the next stages. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope to see you again. So if you want to like, comment, subscribe for more, that'd be much appreciated, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.